Hello, everybody. My name is Amy Nichols. I'm the campus coordinator at the Campus for Creative Aging, a division of Region 4 Area Agency on Aging. You are here for online and email scams in 2020 from COVID to elections. This is a very packed session, so I won't do too long on my introduction, but I want everybody to know that we are recording this session. So if you're having a particularly bad hair day, you can leave your camera off. Otherwise, we'd love to see your smiling faces. And if you have any questions during this session, feel free to message us in the chat box. Just wiggle your mouse and it should be at the bottom of your screen. And if you have any issues, you can feel free to email me as well at amynichols@Area Agency on Aging. You all should have my email. And with that, if there is any kind of Zoom bombing naughtiness happening, I will end this session right away and then we will pick it up on another day. But luckily, knock on wood, we are very protective of our Zoom links, so we have not had that problem. Now, with that, I am going to introduce Mr. Charlie Olszewski, my smartest guy I know. I tell him this in every session and he doesn't believe it, but I do. And he's an expert on scams, like a very true expert on scams. So I'm going to let him share his screen and talk away. So feel free to message us if you have any questions, and I will try to ask them of Charlie as we go along. To you, Charlie.
Alrighty, so I will share my screen, and I think now you should probably be able to see, whoops, you should see the wrong screen. Let's try that again. I've got it, yeah. Getting used to a new laptop, folks, so there we go. Now you've got it. So real briefly and really quickly, I'm a retired person. I've got 24 years in higher ed. I've got 21 years in the private sector. There's some information about me in retirement. I've been doing seminars for quite a while. I started out doing with keeping your computer safe seminars and evolved in, and then to cybersecurity and evolved into scam seminars. So I've done them even for the Attorney General's office. So enough about me. Let's get on with the good stuff. So what I've got in mind for today, this is phone online, basically 2020, looking at some of the issues of 2020 and going forward. I want to talk about the purpose. Then I want to talk about some recent and current scams, types of phone scams. So I'm going to aim in on phone scams. And then after I get done talking about phone scams, I will talk about online scams. One of the real quick things, as you see at the bottom here, and on page 2 of your handout, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner of my PowerPoints, it points you to the page of the handout that I'm on, so that if you want to take some notes, you can jot notes on that page and you'll be able to get them back lined up easily. But just as I was doing this, just yesterday, the Herald Palladium came out with a phone scam that's currently going on in our area that if you're not aware of, you need to be aware of. Basically, it's a caller who claims to be with the sheriff's office and asks for payments or money. This is not a new phone scam. And in fact, I'll talk about it a little bit later as we get into the phone scams. It's very common. It's been going on for a while. I'll let you listen to some of the past ones as we get into that. But just want you to be aware of the fact this is going on right now. People are getting calls claiming to be from the sheriff or the IRS or something else and wanting you to pay them money. Don't do that. That was my reminder to talk about it. After I get done talking about phone scams, then I'll talk about online scams. Online scams are email scams or anything that you do when you're connected to the internet. So I'll go through and give you some examples of those, talk to you about some of the things that I've seen that are going on. I basically have gone and taken a look at what is currently happening in our area that's been documented by the Better Business Bureau so that we can look at some of those issues. Now, please understand that doesn't mean it's everything that's happening in the area, but it gives me an idea and helps me with some directions about what to talk about. Then in part G of the seminar, I'll talk about preventing and deterring scams. That's, I think, the really critical thing. And then especially what I want to talk about is what do you do if you're victimized by the scam so that you don't get victimized. That's my whole goal, is to minimize those problems by you. So let's look next at a poll question, or three actually. So the first poll question is, we want to gather some information about our audience. So what age group are you in? And Amy will pop this up and we'll find out if you're an age 65 or older, 44 to 64, or younger than 44.
And by the way, we don't check IDs. We may be the area agency on aging, but we don't check IDs. So you feel free to be honest with your age. Charlie, we did have a question while people are answering this.
Sure.
Do they ever track these scammers down and catch them?
Oh, yes, they do. They do sometimes. It's true they don't always do that, but often they do. And it often takes a long time before they do get them too. So that's the other thing that you need to be aware of, is that even though you may not hear of somebody being arrested for a scam immediately, they often do get caught. Sometimes not.
All right, so here's the results. Everybody is 44 or older. That's that for an answer.
That's, I'm not surprised by that.
All right.
Okay, so I think we have another poll question too to come up.
So the next one is, have you ever been the victim of a scam? This one's pretty simple, yes or no. And don't forget to hit submit, because sometimes that doesn't quite go if you don't do that. So, all righty. I'm going to give it, I usually try to give you guys about 30 seconds. Sometimes you've been a victim of a scam and you didn't quite realize it until later. All right, so it looks like we have a pretty savvy crowd, Charlie. Only one of us has been the victim of a scam, so.
That's good. That's
yeah,
the
I
way
feel good
we
about
would
that.
like to keep it. I think the last time I did a scam seminar in August, we had a number of people who had been victims, and that was the first time I've ever seen that.
Cool.
Okay, so let's continue on. Oh no, there's one more, I think, right?
Oh, I got a whole bunch, so whatever you want to do. All right, last one. Do you know someone who has been a victim of a scam? Yes or no?
No,
I don't think so. No.
But we get 12 votes.
All righty, so yes or no? Oh. All right, Charlie, this is about a split crowd. Two have, two haven't.
All right. Well, and that's fairly typical when I've done, and not only the last one I did, but in most of the scam seminars that I do, people have known other people. But the last one this summer, when I did the one on COVID scams, we had several people, Amy, you may recall, who had been victims of scams. So, all right, let's move on. So the purpose of this thing is, mostly the purpose of this thing is to inform you. What we want to do is get you to be familiar with what scams sound like, what they look like, what they are, who they're targeting, what people want when they're scamming you. We also want to have you know how to spot the signs. We want you to know how to be able to stop them too. That's another goal that I have, is to make sure that you know how to stop scams. And then I also want you to know what to do if you're a victim of scams. Some scams, and you'll see as I go through this, have $0 involved in it. Probably they're scary more than anything, but there are a number of scams where people lose a lot of money, and we'd like to reduce that likelihood. And so the final thing, of course, is reducing the likelihood that you would ever be the victim of another scam. So, informing you about the costs of scams is difficult. I tried to gather some data. In July of 19, an organization called 9to5mac.com said that Americans had lost over $2.4 billion in scams in 2018. It's gone up in 2019, I'm sure, but the bottom line is that there's a lot of money that's lost in there. FTC said that in 19, 3.2 million people had been victims of scams, and that was an increase of 3% over 18. And the FTC, one of the things that makes it difficult to figure out how much is lost to scams and how many people are scammed other than the fact that a lot of people may not report it, is how do we categorize it? Who's categorizing? At the Better Business Bureau, you've got AARP, you've got the FTC. The FTC has 3 broad categories: fraud, identity theft, and other consumer complaints. So it's kind of hard to get a benchmark where I can look from year to year consistently and see that. Another article, npr.org, on February 13th of last year, said that Americans had lost over $143 million on online relationship scams. So that's another one that seems to be really big in the area. In fact, the Herald Palladium this past weekend had an article about this Tom Ernstine from South Haven. This guy is a guy whose picture has been stolen. Evidently he's a model. And so he's got a lot of pictures of himself out there on the web. Guy's a pretty good looking guy, and he's in better shape than me, let's just say that, even though he's only a few years younger than I am. But his picture has been posted by a lot of romance sites, and the people will claim that they are this Tom, and they get women to send the money to help them out with this, that, or the other. In fact, one woman had lost $30,000 to this guy and really believed, and this person did find out that this Tom Ernstine lives in South Haven, and called him and threatened to sue him. And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. He had no clue that his picture was being used. It wasn't him at all, but people do this. So romance scams are real big. I don't find a lot of evidence of romance scams in our area. Could be people don't want to talk about it, don't know. CNBC, in April of this year, estimated that people had lost $13.4 million in fraud over the COVID-19 scams that were going on. I did a seminar on COVID-19 frauds this summer. So a lot of those are phone scams. In fact, one of them that was really concerning to me is that back in March, NBC did a special on COVID scams, and one of the things they highlighted was there's a phone app that people were encouraged. The thing went out to text messages to all sorts of people, download this phone app. It's a real-time phone app, which will give you information on what are the hotspots in your areas. And people would click on that app, and what it did is it locked their phone. And they had to pay in Bitcoins in order to unlock their phone. It was a scam. So I'm really especially concerned about that, because I'm not sure how many of you heard about it, but just last week, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, supposedly working with Department of Technology, though one of my inside people said it's all Health and Human Services, and technology and management and budget has nothing to do with it. But they have just come out with an alert scam yourself that you can download, and that's the link. I think I put that link on your handout if you want to go to that. It is a link to download an app. And the problem with these scams is make sure you've got the correct link. So I have for you there the correct link. If you download that app, that is the Michigan app. What this will do is alert you and let you know 2 things. One, if you test positive for COVID, you would go to this app and put that information in. Then all the people who have this alert on their phone, if you are near them, they will be alerted that somebody close to them has COVID-19. Now, Mark, a friend of mine who works for Department of Health and Human Services and oversees the IT group here in Berrien County, said it's a good alert, a good app. It's a valid app. That's the right one. It was DHSS, not Technology Management Budget that wrote it out. And the only thing, when I asked him, is there anything we need to be aware of? He said, just remember and remind people, it runs on Bluetooth, so it doesn't go very far, but Bluetooth drains your phone much faster than any of your other apps. So be aware of that. If you put that on, if you're used to charging your phone once a day, you may have to charge it twice a day if you're running that app quite often. Okay, so difference between scam and nuisance, I talk about in another seminar, but it is important to not deal with a lot of nuisances. There are a lot of things that are nuisances that are not scams. What I'm concerned with is scams. These are things that are actually illegal. These are things that may, in fact, drain money from you, and are the really bad things. So why do we want to be concerned about scams? Well, in order to stop scams from happening, we all need to be aware of them. We need to take action so that we're not victims of these things, so that we do not lose money. Current and recent scams, I go to the Better Business Bureau site, and on page 4 of your handout, I have the URL for that. This is a site that you can go and track all sorts of scams. So when I did this on Tuesday this week, I always do it just real close to when I'm putting together a seminar, so I can look at what's the current stuff that's going on. So I did it from January 1st to November 17th. I set it for all scams. I set it only for the US and the entire US. And I set my dates. And this is what I got. Just from January 1st till November 17th, there were 39,563 scams that were reported to the Better Business Bureau. So this is not all the scams. In fact, some of these are duplicates when I look through them. But these are what people actually report to the Better Business Bureau. The interesting thing to me, the red spots are the real hot spots. And notice they're kind of in our West and Midwest area, out of the big population centers. So I was surprised by that. What I also like to do is narrow it down to where we are. So what I did is, and you can zoom in with this map and you can move it around, and I set it again for January 1 to November 17th. And I moved it into this area, which basically takes in our area of Michigan and a little bit of South Bend. It does go out to Marcellus, and it goes up to Benton Harbor. When I did that, I found 61 scams were reported. And then if you want to go to this website, you will get data that looks like this. You can go down, it will give you a listing of all those 61 website or 61 incidents. It'll give you a dollar amount. If there's a dollar amount lost, it'll give you the date, it'll give you the zip code. And then the real, I think, valuable thing is go in, folks, and click on view. When you click on view, you'll get the scam type, how it's classified, an ID number if you want to come back and find out more about it. If there's a business involved and the person who's reporting it lists the business name, that will be listed as well. It'll give the date, it'll give the zip code. If there's a dollar amount lost, it'll tell you what they lost, and then it'll give you a description. Now, there's a lot of variation in the descriptions because these are whatever people write and enter. So when I looked at all these, again, just those 61 that I call close to home, as you can see, I have a little spreadsheet I dump them into so I can organize them better and I can count them up. The biggest one in our area is online purchase scams. The next most frequent in this area was employment scams. And notice here I have number 6. I have 2 cases of number 6. That person had reported it evidently twice. That's why I say when you look at these numbers, sometimes they are duplicated. And then the 3rd and 4th most frequent, with 5 each, were what are called fake check or money order scams and phishing scams. So those are the ones I want to talk about today because I know those are the ones that are common to our area. Now I backed it out a little bit and I went up to South Haven, and when I back it out, you get all of Kalamazoo in there. I get most of Elkhart and over into Portage. When I backed it out, there are 176 scams there. So you got a bigger thing, but what didn't change when I did that is number 1 was the online purchasing and employment, and that were all still right up there.
Charlie, this works in Canada too, right? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
yes,
that's what I thought.
You can you can do Canada, and then you can do individual states. The problem if I do the state of Michigan, of course, we're getting overwhelmed by Detroit and Grand Rapids and Lansing, and that's not very indicative, I don't think, of our area, and that's why I don't do the state thing. AARP has a similar scam tracker, whereas the BBB one, I can take and move this around so I can push Chicago out. The AARP, you can't do that. You have to put in your zip code, and then you list 25, 50, or 100-mile radius. And when you go to a 50 mile radius, you get one area, get the 100, you get all sorts of Chicago and everything like that. So when I did theirs, 50-mile radius from 49085 from the St. Joe zip code, I got 21 scams, a fewer number. Okay, so that's a little bit about finding out where scams are. And that's a website you guys can go to, both of those, anytime you want if you're curious about that. So we got another poll question coming up here, Amy.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Pop it up. And we'll go to phone scams. So this one is a cool one because when I launch this, you have the ability to answer more than one question. So you can pick as many answers as you would like. And it says, check all of the types of phone calls you have received. A robocall, a text message you suspected was a scam, a voice call you suspected was a scam, or all of the above. So sometimes these polls are single answers, sometimes they'll be multiple answers. It just depended on what kind of mood I was in when I was entering them in the computer. All righty, I think I'm going to end this polling here. And it looks like 80% are all of the above, Charlie.
Whoops, I don't, oh, there it is.
There it is. Yep, sorry, I didn't click the button. 80% are all of the above.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive. Okay, but not surprising. These are common things that we run into. Okay, so let's talk about these types of scams. So all these organizations, BBB, AARP, FTC, they all have classifications, and they all classify them a little bit differently, and that's part of the problem. So employment scams, online purchase, sweepstakes, lottery, fake check, tech support, credit card, phony debt collection, healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, identity theft. They're all the classifications, and as you saw when I popped that screen up, it puts them into a classification. You, I think, who are reporting it, get to identify which classification you're putting it in. Word to the wise, these overlap between phone and online. And then even the phone and online, this presentation I'm doing, I refer to as on-premise type, off-premise type scams. That is, they're taking place off-premise. There's nobody coming to you. There are another scam seminar I does is called on-premise scams. With that one, you have people knocking on your door, and we're not talking about those at all. But even those fall into some of these same categories. So the categories overlap. So you can't go and just look for fake check scams and assume that's all going to be phone scams or that it's all going to be online scams. They could be either one or the other. So typical phone scams, including text messages in that. So a couple of quick enablers of scams and is misinformation and the role of fear. These are very important for whether you're doing phone scams or online scams or in-person scams. People use the role of misinformation. They use the role of fear. I'll talk about that in a different one. But what I want you to do is listen to, I've got 3 of these audio recordings. These are scams that actually came to my phone. I practice one of the policies I encourage you all to practice, which is don't answer your phone if you don't know who that person is that's calling you. And so all of these, because I don't answer my phone, if you call me and I don't know who you are, I'm not going to answer. It'll go into voicemail. You leave me a voicemail message if you start saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, I was in your scam thing, I got a question for you. If I'm home, I'll pick that up. If I'm not home, I've got the information, I'll call you back. But you avoid a lot of problems by doing this. So what I want to do is play these 3 different things for you, and then we can talk about these things. Oops.
Got to share your screen. Did you remember to hit the button about mirror my video? You're on a new computer. We had it set beforehand.
Yeah. No, I'm on the old computer, but I forgot to, let me try this again one time. I forgot to do the share thing. I forgot to change the share, actually, is what happened. So, can you hear this now?
Nope.
You got it?
Nope.
Let me,
While you're doing that, Norm and Lily have quite a funny one that they always get scam calls from someone claiming to be from the IRS, except that they live in Canada, where there is no IRS.
And they keep on, every day they keep on calling me. And I said, but I don't live in the United States. Doesn't matter, he keeps on talking.
My gosh.
yes, yes.
I have
You-
phone codes today.
You will get a kick out of one that I play for you coming up here. Let's see if I can try this one again. Are you hearing this now? Oh no, that's right. I gotta do the share. I switched to the share of the audio. Okay, now.
Deputy Jones calling the Washington
Hearing it now?
Yep.
State Police Department, and the reason I was trying to reach you is in reference to a federal complaint which has been filed on your name from an officer by the name John Harris, who is working with the Federal Crime Enforcement Network. So the very second you receive this message, I want you to surrender yourself to the nearest police department, or else you can speak with an officer John Harris on the number 20680130006. I repeat, it's 2068013.
I think you got it, right? And there's no, since I lost a little time, no sense in listening to the others either. So let's continue on with where we left off. Oh yeah.
And just another part about some of those, the contact tracing apps and that kind of thing will not work on older iPhones. They're built for newer ones and above. So they will lock up your phone too, just from,
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Mhm.
And actually this app for the COVID thing, Mark said you've got to have a phone that's less than 5 years old or it won't work on that either.
Yeah, because they're all like that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my phone might be too old, but I'm not going to go through the others just in the interest of time, but that's you can hear the kind of voice, and the advantage of doing this thing by not answering it, of course, is that first off, you don't know who you're going to get, right? You can see your caller ID, you see it's a number that you don't know, might even say anonymous, might even not say anything. But when you see that and you pick it up and you start talking to that person, you can find yourself in a compromising position. These people are pretty aggressive and pretty smart. By not answering it, you've got it on your answering machine. Now you can go and listen to this thing and at your leisure, respond as you would like. So basically, format I have come up with for scams is knowing a little bit, what is it about and how does it work? Knowing how to spot the signs, knowing how to stop it, what to do if you're a victim, and how to reduce the likelihood. So here's another example that I'll see if I can do correctly for you, but this was in this particular case, it was May 9th of 19, last year. I received a phone call. Now, as I received that phone call in my office, I have the computer, I have my phone and a speaker phone, so the phone is right there. So as I'm using my computer, I believe I was planning a vacation at that point, and as I was using my computer, the phone comes on from an anonymous caller, and it says something to the effect that I can't use my computer my Windows license key is expired. I need to call this 800 number, and they will help me get a new license key for that. And I'm sitting there laughing, right? Because I'm using my computer, and they're telling me my Windows computer no longer
kidding.
works. So here is, let me see if I can stop sharing this one and then go to the audio and start that up. I think that's this one.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple of times also. Yeah.
Okay, I got the right one. So now let me share this with you guys. And here we go.
828123. Your computer is blocked and you are not able to use your computer from server. Please call 1-888-692-8123 to reactivate services.
Friday, 12:37.
So, as I said, I was using my computer as this was going on, as they're telling me that my computer is not working, and I need to call that number so that they can get my credit card number, I'm sure, and then they will let me use my computer again. Obviously, oops.
Obviously, they don't know who they're calling.
Well, I mean, to anybody, right? It would be, you have to laugh, which is what I did, is just laugh, because it's like, what do you mean I can't use my computer?
Right.
I am using my computer.
Norm says, do you ever wonder who they hire to work there? You know, who do they hire to do that stuff? And, that has got to be the world's worst job.
Yes, it does. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. I'm having a hard time getting used to my new laptop. Okay, I think you guys can probably see that again.
And to be clear, your old laptop is not locked out. It's just in a spot where it doesn't work very well.
Right. Yeah, I had some problems with that, so I got a brand new one. But it has a it has lighted keys, and when they're lit, they're really hard to see in the daylight. So I have to, and I accidentally hit the wrong thing and turn the light on, and then I can't see them. So it's just a matter of an issue. So at any rate, here's phone voicemail thing. So this thing went into my answering machine. So how did it work? Well, they called and they told me, it's a threatening thing. What they're trying to do is scare you. They're trying to get you concerned to take some action real quick. They're doing that. This could be classified as a tech support, could be classified as phishing, however you want to classify it, I don't know. What they want me to do is basically get my credit card so that they can unlock my key, give me a new key. I've got to buy that, I'm sure, is what would have happened if I would have talked to the guy. But I saw the caller ID was an unknown caller. Sometimes there's no name to it. It's a number I didn't recognize. So to stop this was relatively easy. It never got started because I never answered the phone. And that's the advantage you have on phone scams over on online scams, is that if you don't listen to the answer or the phone, you won't get into a jam for that. Now, how do you stop this? Like I said, because I never got started in the scam, I never answered the phone, there was nothing I had to do. If this was somebody who answered the phone, if I would have picked that phone up while I was at my computer and maybe my computer was turned off, and if I would have answered it and they said my computer doesn't work, if I turned my computer on and found there were problems, they might want me to let them remote in to the computer, which is not uncommon. That act is something that tech support people do often. But they would do that, and at that time, they actually have total control over your computer. So you got to be careful about who you let do remote access into your computer. And that's where it gets really difficult. And in my Keeping Computers Safe seminars, I talk about what you do and how you do with that. You want to make sure, first off, from a scam standpoint, that you're not letting anybody have access to your computer that you don't trust. If somebody calling over the phone, don't let them have access to it. They may want money from you, so they may want to get you to give them a credit card so that they can give you a new license key, which they don't have any ability to do, but they will have your money. They want personal information, maybe passwords, logons, that type of stuff. That's what they're looking for in these things.
They don't give any of this.
So in order to reduce the likelihood, do just as I did. Don't answer phone calls. We do not, in my house, we don't answer calls unless it's somebody that we know. Then you'll never get involved in these things. If you don't answer it, then what you do is you get the information on your computer. Now you can go in and you can do a lookup of this person. This person said the phone number that they were calling from. I can't remember if this one said the company. Sometimes I'll say they're with such and such a company. But if you go plug that phone number in with the word scam and do a Google search on it, you're likely to find a ton of things that come up and say, this is scam, this happened to me, da-da-da-da-da, and you'll verify that, in fact, it is a scam. If you actually answer the phone and that person tries to get you to give a credit card, just hang up on them. I mean, that's the easiest thing, just hang up. Do not give them, do not call back that phone number. So they claim to be from Microsoft Tech Support. They gave me an 800 number, which I'm sure is not Microsoft Tech Support. Don't call whatever number they give you. Go look up the Microsoft Tech Support number. Don't give them access to your computer. If you are a victim, this can really get difficult. And in a Keeping Safe series that I do, I talk about how you go about doing this, shutting down applications, shutting off your internet connection. If you did give your bank checking account number, routing number, or a credit card number, call that company immediately. If you did give your account numbers, file a police report, contact your local police. I don't know what it's like in Canada. I know here, well, I know Lincoln Township I'm in, our police really want to hear from you. And they will help you with this to the best of their ability. In order to try to recover money, if you lose money on a credit card, you're going to have a police report that says a crime was committed. So it's the first thing you're going to have to do. So file that report, call your local police. Take a computer to a trusted local business and have it checked out if you think they put spam on there. Remove software and unauthorized remote access to your computer, and I show you that in a different seminar where you have a little bit more time. Change passwords is something you should do immediately. If you gave them a credit card information, change the credit card, your password to that credit card. File a report with the FTC, the BBB, AARP. But ultimately, stop them and shut down your applications if it's online, or just hang up the phone. How this really works, this again goes back to early this year. I was updating passwords and stuff like that, and logons, and I noticed I still had my landline listed for what's called two-factor authentication. So in two-factor authentication, you have my password, and then I give a phone number for them to call. So when I log on to a website, what will happen is it won't go through. You'll get a message, something to the effect of check your phone, and your text message, it will give you a number, 5, 6, 7-digit number that you have to type in to continue with your logon. So I noticed that I had my landline still listed as my backup for that. Well, landlines can't take text messages, so you can't send a text message to that thing. So I changed it. I changed it to my cell phone, and a little bit later in the afternoon, so that was early in the morning, by that afternoon, within a few hours, I got a call from that organization that I changed that to. It was a phone call that said, thank you for changing your password, address, or phone number. Your security is important to us, da-da-da-da-da. If you didn't make these changes, please call. And they gave me an 800 number, or they gave me a website to go to check out those changes. So that's the way it's supposed to work when you make these changes. You should, within get verification from the company that you made the change to, that a change has been made. Or if you open up your email or you get a text message that says, thank you for changing your password, your address or such and such, and you hadn't made that change, then call that 800 number they give you if you're dealing with phone. Go to that website if it's an email and say, hey, that was not me. I did not do those, so that you can stop something real quick. Okay, so some close to home type things. And again, I'm going to go through the same format on these things. WebAdvisor did something on, this was well, actually, let's skip that because we're running out of time. So I think you got the idea though on phones, right? And we'll come back to some key tips.
Don't answer it no matter how tempting it is. I know
Absolutely.
a ringing phone is really tempting. Just let it go.
Yep, exactly. And they do that with sweepstakes and lottery prizes and all that, same type of thing. They'll call you and say, you've won this, and here you go, Amy. You just won $1 million. So, oh yeah, I'm going to grab that phone. Just don't do it. Let them put the information in there. They're going to give you a phone number to call or a website to go to. Go look that up. Do scam and that phone number. Do scam and that website, and you'll probably see a ton of things on that thing. So another one, just this, seems as though whenever I do these scam things, there's always all sorts of current stuff going on. So this was the Herald Palladian, Wednesday. Phone scam, caller is a sheriff asking for payment. Caller claims to a sheriff office, local police agency, tells a person there's a warrant for their arrest. They're missing jury duty or whatever. It comes from the 269 area code. There is something that is called spoofing. If you've not heard of that, spoofing is something that can happen with phones, or it can happen with email and online services. Spoofing is where somebody takes that phone number and changes it to something like yours. So here in Berrien County, 269 is our area code. So I often get calls that it'll say from out of area. Well, that means it's not a 269 area code, but the number is 269, and then the first 3 digits will be the exchange. That's the exchange for my house. People do that by spoofing. They change. You can use software to go in and change that, to change what's displayed on the caller ID. So be very leery of that stuff as well when you see those. If you see, in fact, I've not had this happen, but I think one of my friends told me that they got a phone call supposedly from another one of their friends, but it was a different phone number. So they had spoofed the phone number and they put in the wrong name, and they didn't know that. So be very, very careful of those. But this is going on right now. So online scams. Got another poll question here. When web surfing, have you ever clicked on something that you're not sure what you clicked on, where it was? If you ever had that experience, you got the website up there and all of a sudden it changed to a different page and I didn't think I clicked on anything.
This one's just a straight yes or no answer. So. All righty.
Okay, we got results.
Our results are yes, every single one of us. We're all in good company though, right?
I do that often. I'm glad to know. Yeah, not uncommon. And as you saw me fumbling even here, I accidentally turned my lighting on and I couldn't see my keys on the keypad. So yes, I do that all the time, just like all of us do. So again, what are the types and classifications? Same thing. This is the exact same thing that you saw before. They overlap. So looking close at home to these things, oh, we got another poll question. Have you ever seen an email that you thought was a scam? Have you ever been on a web page? Have you ever been the victim of a scam? Amy, did you put those all together into one question for us?
I sure did. So,
right.
And you can pick multiple choice. You can pick all of the above or one, whatever you want to do. I'm sensing a pattern with this one too.
All right. And that pattern would be, I don't see a result yet.
Okay, hold on one second. We got one more coming in right now. And all right, there we are at 30 seconds. So we are going to end the polling. And it looks like everybody, just about everybody, has done an email they thought was a scam or a web page they thought was a scam, and then been the victim of an online scam. Was somebody was unfortunate enough to have that happen.
That's what we want to avoid, and hope that we can help you avoid that. Hopefully it wasn't a very costly mistake in there. But okay, so onward and upward. Fake check scams. Again, that was one of the categories that we had. This is initiated for an online scam. It might be initiated by email, might be a website. Pop-ups and pop-unders. These are the things that often we accidentally hit. And I'm notorious for moving real quickly with my fingers, a little too quick, or sometimes a little too slow. I'll look at something I want to click on, and by the time I actually hit the click thing, a pop-up has come in its place, and I hit the pop-up, and there I am on some page that I didn't want to be on. These are often with selling things, online purchases, sweepstakes, lotteries. Jobs for hire are often involved in fake check scams. Payments for sweepstakes. Basically, the way this typically works is that people overpay you for something. So you may get it. In fact, one of these that we just saw, I think somebody got a check that was more than what they expected. And the person, what they do on the other end of the line is say, oh, deposit the whole check, keep X for yourself, and send us a check for the difference. Well, what you don't understand is that it takes a bank a while to process that. So even though you think the money went into your account because you cashed that check, it won't actually get cleared. You will have written a check to that person that they will cash, and you will be out that amount of money. So to stop the scam, do not cash the check. As with employment, sometimes people are laundering money. And that's what they do. So they get you, they send you a check for $1,000. They say, yeah, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. We know it was only supposed to be $500. Deposit the $1,000 check, send me a check for $500. You deposit the $500, they're laundering that money. They have clean money because it's a check from you. The money they had was probably dirty money and they didn't want it. Now, when the bank gets done after about 7 days, that $1,000 check that they sent you, it will not clear. So you will end up with zero money out of it. You will have written them a check for $500 and you will never see that $500 again. Right. So again, do not cash the checks. Tell them that you need the exact dollar amount, but don't write them a check. And I've got samples here. If I'll stop sharing this page and we'll look at a different page. And I'll look at some of these that we have had in the area. So let me share this with you.
Hey, Charlie, while you're doing that, Norm had asked a question if has anybody ever been a victim where somebody was able to steal your credit card that was connected to PayPal? Then they purchased something, had it delivered to your home, and then waited outside your door to steal the package.
And
actually, you have, yeah. I've heard of
that experience.
Yeah.
It was amazing how this whole thing was organized. And there was actually you just don't know how they had, the whole thing was from step 1 to step 5. It was all done in a very professional way. And then when the post lady gave me the parcel and I put it into my house and they told me, don't open it up. Don't you think somebody called me on the telephone and said to me, you know, the post office tried to deliver you a parcel. And I said, oh yeah, sure. They tried to deliver me a parcel. I said, you are a bunch of crooks. And the guy who was outside the door watching, he ran away.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've heard of that and I've seen it written up in these things that I have, but I don't know of anybody personally until now who's actually had that happen. But they are, they're good. They're
Did you
really
ever
good.
open the box? I gotta know.
Yeah, they bought a computer, a laptop for $2,500. But you know, the
Oh.
whole thing was stupid, really, because why do you send it to the person who you're trying to rob?
Well, they believe, and they've been successful. I mean, like I say, I've heard of these things, and they've been very successful. The person is not there at the time. Often, a lot of those people are working, so they're waiting there, and they grab that before the person gets home. Sometimes in fact, some of them that I've seen written up has happened when they were on vacation. So a person's at vacation, it's delivered to that home, so the scammer knows that they've got plenty of time to be able to get it. But they're there waiting to grab that thing real quick.
Yeah.
So
Well, they actually tried to grab it from the post lady, but the post lady was frightened. She was as white as a sheet because she told me that somebody was following me for a couple of blocks. And she rang our doorbell because she was frightened to death. So I told her to come into the house. And she says to me, you know, somebody's following me.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was probably not one of the sharper scammers, I would say.
No, that's awful. That poor post lady. My goodness.
Oh yeah. Well, and then it had to be frightening for you, I would think too, because knowing that somebody's following her, obviously, this is probably not somebody with good intent. So yeah, that's frightening.
Yeah.
So here is just from our area recently, and here's one. I was supposed to deposit a check into my account for $3,790.85. Not sure if it's a scam. I'm supposed to take $750 for my first payment. And this is typically what they do. They'll send you this big check, take part of it, and then pay the difference back to them. Well, that difference back to them is what you're going to be out, because that $3,900 check will never clear. It takes a few days to go through the banking system to get cleared, and if it doesn't get cleared, it doesn't get paid. But you, in the meanwhile, will have written a valid check, and all the money that you wrote will be gone. So you got to be really careful on these things. This one was really interesting. This person, customer service number with a Cash App on Google, refunding my money. They actually sent $100 more. So they wanted to have the difference sent back to them. So these are the types of things that you're going to run to on these these are all phone scams. Well, these are online scams, I guess. Or actually, it's hard to tell from this whether it was via text message or via online. But that's the type of thing they do. They send you more money, and they want you to write a check for the difference. Don't ever do that. Or sometimes they'll have you send cash apps. Sometimes they'll have you go get gift cards. Those are other real clues that that's not a good thing to be sending to them. So be really careful with that. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint.
Oh, go.
I've had the gift card thing happen.
Oh, have you?
Email. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, let's go buy. Why don't you buy $250 worth of gift cards, and I'll pay you $500 when I pick them up. I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah, definitely not. Phishing scams, a little bit different, but also very similar. Phishing scams, when we're doing phishing, what they're doing is they're trying to get information from you. Mostly what it is, and these will mostly come by email. Well, these could be by phone too, but email, pop-up websites, pop-under websites, communications, unexpected communications of personal information, asking for personal information, telling you to download an attachment. Often these are prize offers. Sometimes they threaten punishments if you don't comply. Sometimes they're completely mundane looking file from your IT department or your boss or from a friend that says, oh, I need to have your password. I'm the IT department of your company. We've got an issue with your password. Can you send me the password? Sometimes they will outright ask for your social security number, credit card information. Typically use one of three methods to fool the victims: a message that promises a reward, threatening a punishment if you don't comply immediately by giving us your juror number, your social security number, or whatever, the police are going to come after you. Or sometimes it's almost like a mundane No big deal. Just, I need your password to the Amazon streaming service that you got. I just want to check and make sure it's working fine with you. And it sounds real mundane. But they run all those 3 different gambits. Again, their intent is to get information, get something from you. Often it's personal information. Sometimes it's money. Okay, I got another poll question. Is there an obvious difference, and Amy, you can probably pop this one up here, between a secure website and a website that is not secure?
So is there an obvious difference between a website that is secure and one that is not secure? Yes, no, or a what?
What? What is that?
I was getting a little sassy at the end of putting these in.
She does take some liberties with my questions.
I do.
But they're good. But they're good. I like that.
I like a little humor. So, all right. Looks like everybody's voted and everyone is in agreement, Charlie. Yes, there is a little difference between the two.
Good. So you guys, I probably don't even have to bother with this one. So but just to be sure, let's make sure you all know what that difference looks like. Oops, it'll be on the next page. So again, suspicious phone numbers, get the caller ID, use a search engine, or suspicious websites, get their email address, URL, use a search engine. Refine your, and this is kind of a technique for tracking down stuff, whether it's a phone number with an ID or a website with a URL. Go to your search engine, put in phone scams, website scams, put in the phone number if it's a phone scam, put in the URL if it's a website, and see what you get when you put together scams and that information. Chances are if it's a scam, you're going to get a whole page. If I got scam, scam this, scam that. If you don't get that, you could refine the search. The phone number, you may find that there's a business. It might be a business called Take You Money, Inc. And then you can put in that phone number and takeyoumoney.inc and find out what you get. And you may find out at that point that it's a scam. Suspicious emails, same thing. If you get an email from I Steal You, use your search engine, put in email scams, I Steal You, and see what you get. Chances are you're going to end up with a whole bunch of things. So in answer to that question, verifying secure websites, I assume that's what you guys are all familiar with, is looking for that HTTPS that tells you it's a secure website. When you see it on your web browser, you'll see the HTTPS. Also, you're likely to see a lock in there, and usually a lock is green. That means it's good. You're good to go on that. So I think you all are aware of that. Okay, so something else when we're looking at web pages, if you're not aware of it, you can do what we call hover, where you hover over something. And if it's a link, like this one up here was supposed to be this is the FTC website, and this is the link that you would click on to file a consumer complaint. If you hover over it, if you just put your mouse right over on top of it and just let it sit there for a moment, you will see what the URL is. In fact, that's what the URL was, ftccomplaintassist.gov. And you look at that and you see that and go, does that make sense for the link I would go to file a complaint? Yes, it does. If on the other hand, that link said charliegotcha.ru, you would probably say, boy, that doesn't make sense for a link to go to file a complaint. In fact, it looks like Charlie thinks he's, and also, by the way, our .ru is Russia. It's going to a Russian server. So don't click on that. So do that hover thing. Another thing is that you also see a URL down at the bottom that's displayed for the page that you're on or a page you're going to. Again, look at those links. Do that hover technique if you're not familiar with it. Another thing for websites when you're dealing with spam is spam blockers. Most of the websites will provide some sort of spam blocker. McAfee does, even Microsoft does. This one shows that this is a safe link, so it gives green checks if it's a link that that the McAfee has verified is safe, so that you know you can go to that and not have trouble with that. If you don't get the green check, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's a bad website. It means they haven't verified it. Again, if you hover over that little green check, you'll see this little, this link is safe, internet service, and then you can actually click view site report, and it'll tell you actually who it's going to and who owns that website on there. So other good things to be looking at. So again, phishing uses a target to click a link to share information. What they really want is your personal information. So I know we often talk about personal information. I always say personal information and PI, and people start going, oh, what the heck is that? Well, here is a list of things of what personal, when people say, or you see websites say that, or stuff says don't give out personal information, what they're talking about is social security number, birth date, address, bank account, credit card numbers, passwords, anything used to answer security questions. Those are the things. That is what people are referring to when they say personal information. And I think I did not get that on your handout. I can't remember. If I didn't, when I do the revised one, I will make sure that all those things are listed there, so that if you wonder what on earth are they talking about, you'll
Right,
know.
and for those of you that joined a tad bit late, we are going to send out the revised handouts and the link to this video recording as well.
Yep, and that'll come within a month, ideally in a couple weeks, but actually I'll wait until after I do the evening version of this one before I send out the revised one, or I'll send it out to everybody who went to both of them. So to reduce your likelihood of being scammed, we haven't talked too much about this, but it's something I call due diligence, and I'll talk a lot about it coming up here in a little bit, but really looking into, and part of the due diligence is looking at hovering over those links, doing lookups on Google to find them, confirm who is really calling you, check up on their company websites, look for them, see are they really valid. Don't click on links that come from an unexpected email. If I get an email, and I have had, actually for my camera club, one of the people supposedly was sending me email and wanted me to download something, and I knew it wasn't that person. In fact, I then emailed that person, but it looked like it said it was from that person. And then another person from another group of mine, also for a while, I was getting emails from her that were not from her. So be real careful with those things. If you are a victim, certainly it can get, especially with website stuff, and I certainly encourage you to do by keeping your computer safe. I talk about a lot of those techniques in there, and I actually show you screen caps on what to do. But definitely, you don't need a whole lot of help from me in changing passwords, though in one of those things I'll talk to you about what is a secure password and how to make it secure. Contact your credit card companies if you are a victim. You can do a fraud watch. You can have a fraud watch put on your credit cards, and that'll also slow things down too for people. Employment scans, again, this starts to get repetitive. People get emails, they go to websites for these things. A lot of work at home now, especially concerned with the pandemic and all this stuff, that we're getting to a point of a lot of work at home things. So people are looking on the web for work at home opportunities, and you need to be really careful on that. How to spot the signs of this. It can be very difficult to spot, and there's a whole thing that actually CBS did back in March of last year called Risky Business Home or Work Scam. It was about a person who had thought he was doing due diligence. He was looking for to work at home, and he went to the web and looked for job opportunities, found what he thought was a company, went to their website, looked like a valid company, went and actually did, I believe, a Google Maps and found the address of the company. It looked like the business that was there. So he decided to apply to become an employee. Well, when you do that, you're going to have to give information, right? Because they got to do taxes, so you got to have Social Security information. You're going to have all sorts of stuff. So he gave them all this information, and then they sent him a check. It looked really legitimate because as a work at home, he would have to buy some equipment and stuff. So they sent him a check. It was way too much money. They said, send the difference. That should have been a flag, but it wasn't, because he saw the company on Google Maps. He saw their website. So he sent them the money, And then I don't remember what it was, but suddenly a day or two later, he just got to thinking something fishy is about this thing. And he went back to the company website. It was gone. He went back to another Google search. Well, they don't update those. When you look at the satellite view, they don't update those all the time. So the building was still there, but the company their website was gone. Tried to call the phone number. The phone number was gone, not working phone number and all that. And essentially he lost a bunch of money on this thing. So we say do due diligence, but even sometimes in this particular case, this guy did end up losing quite a bit of money in that scam. So it is tough to do that. So healthcare, Medicare, and I know most of us are probably the 65 and over, and the rest of us are no younger than 43, according to our little survey. So for those of us in the US 65 and older, we have to deal with Medicare. And every year, once you're on Medicare, there's an open enrollment period. One of the things with scams that I think is really important is to be informed. So understand how things work and where they work. The open enrollment period for Medicare is October 15th through December 7th. I know I got some calls and websites earlier than that period wanting me to change my Medicare Part D. That is not valid other than during this period. So first off, if you understand and know what the valid period is for those changes, you're going to be less susceptible to scams, because if a scammer comes to you December 15th or December 18th, said time's running out, you need to make this change, you got to do this right now. If you understand that enrollment period ended December 7th, then you're less susceptible to being scammed on that. And Amy, I forgot to ask you, but I know AAA, the Area Agency on Aging, has always helped people with the Medicare stuff. Are they still doing that, even though the agency physically is closed? Do you know?
We're doing them via Zoom or by phone. Zoom is preferred because then we can make sure we have your list of meds. I mean, when you have an appointment with us, we have some very specific things we want, because we're going to look at every single option out there for you. So last year when we did it, we had them in person. So we're struggling a little bit this year to get as many people in, but last year I think we saved people over $900,000 in co-pays and in payments, and it was crazy.
I think most of us know that depending on which provider you pick, depending on which medications you have, some providers will pay a higher percentage for some medications and less for others. So it's an issue of matching your medications to the provider to get the best coverage. And AAA has been doing that for about 4 or 5 years that I know of. And it was always in person, where you'd come in and you'd bring all that information. They'd help you sort through what's the best thing. But so they're still doing it by Zoom. So you could probably call the AAA office.
You can.
And set up Zoom and get some assistance. They're a great resource for that.
Exactly.
Okay, so COVID-19, I did that whole back in August. I did a whole thing on there. COVID has just been rampant. There's a phone app, I talked about that already, that actually locked up your phone. There were 7 companies that the FDA had to warn to stop claiming their products treat the virus. This was back in August. There was a vaccine. There was companies that were taking reservations for the vaccine, which was not out, not even knowing who is going to have one yet. Medical supplies, fake websites selling surgical masks, phony charities seeking donations for COVID-19, investment offers. There were companies that said that they had developed a cure for COVID-19 or a test that could test for COVID-19 even before we had these out. These things are available. There was a doctor who claimed that he was treating your relative and you needed to pay him now. So this is a common theme on the grandparent scam. We've got your grandchild, you need to pay money. Well, the bad guys are pretty good at this. They picked up the new one. Oh, we have your relative who's being treated for COVID, you need to pay. So they're pretty good at keeping up with the times and making changes. a prosecutor in Virginia was working on these scams and said you need to, he was deploring people. There was no treatment. This was going on back in March of this year, March 19th. So this was just as it came out. And he said, you know, and again, understand, get information, know what the background is. There's no known treatment. Today, of course, we do know that there are a couple of vaccines on the horizon. We know there are some treatments out there. So again, being aware of those was good. This guy was a real classic, this Keith Lawrence Middlebrook. If you ever get an email from him, just ignore it. This guy is a bad guy. He was arrested by so in answer, Norm, do people get caught? This guy got caught. The FBI did catch up with him, attempted fraud. He was selling a cure for COVID-19. He had pictures on the web. He texted you stuff. He had all sorts of people buying this stuff, making purchases in that. And the FBI did finally nailed him. And as far as I know, I believe he's in jail at this point. In fact, I think he went to jail and was still trying to run his scheme of selling that stuff. So, yeah, that's the other question we didn't say. Does it stop him once you put him in jail? Robo Calls, just thousands of Robo Calls to sell the cure. And Michigan had an initiative to decrease the robocalls, and I think I've gotten fewer robocalls over the last year than I used to get last year. I assume it's through the initiative through the AG's office that started last fall and the beginning of this year. There was another one that there was actually somebody went door to door selling COVID tests for $300. So this Florida retiree had someone come and they were trying to sell him a test for $300, 72-year-old man. And that gets scary for me. And that's when I do the on-premise thing, I talk about that whole issue. When people come to your door, that's a whole different ball game than this, because you don't know if they're going to force their way into your house or what is going to go on there. So I'll talk about a whole bunch of different stuff with that one. Chrome test virus kits on the internet. Inside Edition paid $600 for 30 test kits and never got it. So Inside Edition, I never thought of Inside Edition as a news story or station for me. And I happened to be listening to Inside Edition a couple of times and I was like, oh my God, they've got some really interesting stuff that they talk about on that show. So they actually went out and bought 30 kits and never got the kits. Again, like we said, people are selling a lot of stuff. These are scams. They found it on Craigslist. They actually had a picture of these test kits and they were able to identify the true company that makes the test kits, and they went to them. That company had no idea that stuff was being sold on Craigslist. And it wasn't being sold on Craigslist, but it was put up there. People were taking the money. So again, be informed. So as I said, there are two companies. We all know Pfizer and Moderna, as of the other day, are going for approval. I think this morning we announced a third one. AstraZeneca, I believe, is ready or is going to go for approval as well. So keeping track of this stuff is important. Now that you know who these are, when you get this call from something that sounds like Moderna but is spelled very differently, you know it's a scam, right? Same thing for Pfizer. If they spell it F-I-S-E-R, it's not Pfizer, right? So the first line of defense is be informed about those. Remdesivir, if you didn't know it, that's called, the true name for it is Veklury or something like that. My best pronunciation of it. But again, being informed about these things is the first step to protecting yourself from these scams. If you know what they are and then you see really strange spellings of these things, then you know it's somebody who's trying to scam you. Spotting a COVID scam is no different than spotting any other online or phone scam. They're all very similar. Again, if you have the information about what's going on, you definitely have an advantage. I'm not going to go through credit card scams. It's a whole bunch of very similar stuff. What I want to talk about is preventing and deterring. So again. On
that note, Charlie, I'm going to sneak out since this crowd is pretty good, and we'll ask a question if they need it. So
yes.
Thank you all for joining us on behalf of the campus. Charlie's going to keep going. I have another Zoom I have to get to. So, and
yeah,
as hard as I cannot do two at once. So, all right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, Amy. Thank you. And yes, if you do have questions,